another one of these things and get sympathy for her.
Yes, Golden Debate Show, GoldenDebateShow.com. It's your boy Crippy. I'm hitting you with another Golden Debate Show because I'm trying to shine that knowledge and that gold on them. So let's get into it. Golden Debate Show.
What? Get that mac and cheese. Everybody deserves their mac and cheese.
Remember, like, comment, share, and download.
Led Zepp theory. And once I find Robert Plant really living in Austin, I'm going to say, hey.
Golden Debate, what?
The theory is that you put these Hecklerz in there to, because we haven't seen this before, because they vet the audience to such an extreme. We've known this during the conventions. They grill you, they do background checks. They
Make sure you don't have a bomb.
Yeah, they do all this stuff. There's no heckler in the place. Unless they're there for a reason, so they heckle him, and then
Warning.
you miss the message.
This is the Golden Debate Show. Like, comment, share, and download. GoldenDebateShow.com.
They heckle her for this reason, and that's all.
This first clip is kind of bonkers, you know what I'm saying? So, man, Reverend Manning.
The GOP does not deserve to have any power.
You know, she's just practicing her act.
You're afraid of the consequences of standing up and defending this Constitution against whatever comes, but you're defending the Constitution. We've got a man that's sitting in the White House now who is constitutionally ineligible, and every damn body in America knows it. Everybody knows it. But yet you, Mitt Romney, you, Reince Priebus, you, Fox News, became conspirators, co-conspirators. And the reason why you let him get away with it is because you're afraid of black people. You're afraid of the backlash. Any man who is too afraid to stand up and to defend the Constitution of this nation does not deserve to be the president of America, and your party does not deserve to have any power. So go someplace and shoot yourself.
He's going anxious.
You allowed this to take place. You allowed our Constitution to be trampled on. And you said you're afraid of black people. Well, what does that mean? What does that mean? What does that mean?
Word open there.
It means that the man that should be the president of America ought to be the man that's willing to defend this nation against all enemies, both foreign and domestic, whether it be black people jumping up and down in Chicago or South Central Los Angeles, or whether it be these freaks on these talk shows like MSNBC crying foul when somebody says the birth certificate, which is a legitimate issue. If you're too afraid of that, then you don't deserve to defend or lead this great nation. Go to hell, Mitt Romney. Go to hell, the GOP party. Go to hell, Fox News. Go to hell, Dick Morris. Go to hell. That's a ridiculous idea. You don't deserve it. I mean, I like Herman Cain, but it was ridiculous to run a black man against a black man. It was crazy as hell. I mean, what are you talking about? It just looks stupid. It looks racist. It looks crazy. Herman Cain against Obama. I mean, what on earth could the Republican Party ever be thinking about? We like Herman Cain.
What?
It was stupid.
Fried
So to get him out of
pickle juice, Coke mixed with milk, Vegemite, boiled tripe, in common. Well, in addition to being frickin' nasty, except for the coffee, they're all purported folk remedies for a hangover. Most adults who partake of alcohol have experienced at least 1 or 2 or 3 or 50 dozen hangovers in their lives, and by all accounts, it sucks. Terrible headaches, nausea, fatigue, dizziness, that feeling of your eyeballs wanting to fall out of your head. But how does the suck work? Well, it involves 3 really miserable interacting things. The first step of the hangover is the biggest cause of your misery, dehydration. Booze is a diuretic, which means it makes you have to pee, which is why there's always a line at the bathroom at a crowded bar. Alcohol suppresses the pituitary gland's release of vasopressin, the hormone that triggers the reabsorption of water back into the body. Without it, the kidneys just send the water
mac and
straight
cheese
into the bladder and into the john. Headaches follow when the body desperately resorts to stealing water from the brain, causing the tissues to shrink and pull away from the skull. Meanwhile, all that peeing causes you to lose a lot of sodium, potassium, and magnesium, which are all necessary for proper cell function. Step 2, acetaldehyde overload. Our bodies metabolize alcohol in 2 phases. First, liver enzymes break down the actual alcohol in the drink, called ethanol, which creates a toxic byproduct called acetaldehyde. The acetaldehyde is then attacked by more enzymes and a peptide called glutathione. This works fantastically if you're drinking small amounts, but if you're guzzling pints all night, eventually your exhausted liver can't keep up, and all that toxic acetaldehyde starts to build up, making you feel really crappy. Step 3, the congener connection. In addition to alcohol ruining your body's ability to hold water and creating toxic leftovers for your liver to handle, most drinks also contain congeners. In chemistry, this refers to any group of related chemicals.
Good morning, everyone. This is Linda West, reporting out of beautiful, sunny California today. I wanted to just bring up to speed with some important news concerning GMOs.
The message is clear.
I promised to get back to doing
The message is clear.
At this point, I just wanted to make sure I showed up about the GMOs and the Monsanto March last week. That was so important, and we're already seeing some wonderful things come out of it. Connecticut has passed the very first version of the GMO labeling bill.
Squirrel!
This is a huge
CT, what up? And we also passed that
awesome
mixed martial arts is allowed, so we always allow our distraction, which is sports allowed, yeah. But yeah,
Monsanto sued the state of Vermont. California, they Monsanto.
That's what they can do something else to
us. And Monsanto poured millions of dollars into disinformation ads showing farmers crying, saying they'd lose their farms if it was passed. So the California people wanting to support the farmers voted against it. When the truth is, and you can look this up, Monsanto at this very moment has hundreds of thousands of our small farmers in litigation trying to take the farms away at this very moment. That's the truth. Okay, moving on. Great news about Connecticut, because this starts a whole domino effect, because as we know, corporations, they don't wait.
Get that mac and cheese. Everybody deserves their mac and cheese.
Wait an entire quarter and lose millions of dollars to a competition that has switched over and is now labeling GMOs. So hopefully we're going to see the greed work in our favor here in the United States as the corporations start to get ahead of the game and start labeling their products non-GMO.
The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com.
Welcome to the David Pakman Show. So much to discuss today. The biggest news, if you've been paying any attention at all, is this news related to the NSA. Glenn Greenwald has a fantastic article in The Guardian about this. It turns out that the National Security Agency is collecting the telephone records of millions of American customers of Verizon under a top-secret court order that was issued in April, so a couple of months ago, less than 2 months ago. And there was a copy of this which was obtained by The Guardian, and it requires Verizon on what is described as an ongoing daily basis to give the National Security Agency information on all telephone calls in its systems. And this includes both calls made from, in other words, between two people in the U.S. and between the U.S. and other countries. We don't know how this leaked. We don't know who obtained it. Certainly there will be, as we know, there is always very much interest in figuring out who the source of the leak was. And I looked at the court order, and let's look at exactly what it includes. It includes originating and terminating phone numbers, identifiers, calling card numbers, time and duration of calls. It doesn't include any of the substantive content of the communication, for example, the name, address, or financial information of the subscriber or customer. Of course, with a cell phone number, authorities can easily find out who probably is using that phone. And it is further ordered that no person shall disclose to any other person that the FBI or NSA was even looking for this type of information unless it is directly related to this. So, for example, if you're talking to an attorney, if you're Verizon, you're allowed to ask your attorney about what's going on, and you can mention the fact that the FBI wants this information in the NSA, but you can't really talk about it in any kind of public way. So let's think about this in a couple of different ways. This shows that the Obama administration is looking at records of people indiscriminately and in bulk, right? Regardless of whether there's any specific suspicion of wrongdoing. And the Obama administration defends this the way we would expect them to, which is saying, listen, this is a way that we can combat terrorism. And I understand that, right? I can imagine how that would be useful. Someone commits a crime, for example. You find out their number. You now cross-reference it with who they called over the last month, who called them. You investigate those people. You can find co-conspirators. Or maybe you know a number that is associated with a suspected terrorist. And you can now look at who has been calling that person and investigate them. I understand that. The problem is no due process, no suspected crime, not even, remember when we talked about that
Obama administration is conducting a massive domestic surveillance program by collecting telephone records of millions of Verizon business customers. Last night, the Guardian newspaper published a classified order issued by the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court directing Verizon's business network services to give the National Security Agency electronic data, including all calling records on a, quote, ongoing daily basis. The order covers each phone number dialed by all customers, along with location and routing data, and with the duration and frequency of the calls, but not the contents of the communications. The order expressly compels Verizon to turn over records for both international and domestic records. It also forbids Verizon from disclosing the existence of the court order. It is unclear if other phone companies were ordered to hand over similar information.
According to legal analysts, the Obama administration relied on a controversial provision in the USA Patriot Act, Section 215, that authorizes the government to seek secret court orders for the production of, quote, any tangible thing relevant to a foreign intelligence or terrorism investigation. The disclosure comes just weeks after news broke that the Obama administration had been spying on journalists from the Associated Press and James Rosen, a reporter from Fox News. We're now joined by two former employees of the National Security Agency, Thomas Drake and William Binney. In 2010, the Obama administration charged Drake with violating the Espionage Act after he was accused of leaking classified information to the press about waste and mismanagement at the agency. The charges were later dropped. William Binney worked for almost 40 years at the NSA. He resigned shortly after the September 11th attacks over his concern over the increasing surveillance of Americans. We're also joined in studio here by Shana Caridal, Senior Managing Attorney at the Center for Constitutional Rights. First, for your legal opinion, Shana, can you talk about the significance of what has just been revealed?
Sure. So I think, we have had stories, including one in USA Today in May 2006, that have said that the government is collecting, basically all the phone records from a number of large telephone companies. What's significant about yesterday's disclosure is that it's the first time that we've seen the order to really appreciate the sort of staggeringly broad scope of what one of the judges on this Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court approved of, and the first time that we can now confirm that this was under Section 215 of the Patriot Act, which, has been dubbed the libraries provision because people were mostly worried about the idea that the government would use it to get library records. Now we know that they're using it to get phone records. And just to see the immense scope of this warrant order, when most warrants are very narrow, is really shocking as a lawyer.
I don't like it.
Well, some might argue that the Obama administration at least went to the FISA court to get approval for this, unlike the Bush administration in the past.
Right. Well, we don't know if the Bush administration was, getting these same orders, and if this is just a continuation, a renewal order. Right? It lasted for only supposed to last for only 3 months, but they may have been getting one every 3 months since 2006 or even earlier. When Congress reapproved this authority,
News contributor and joins us here this evening. Senator McCain says, arm the rebels, impose a no-fly zone. What do you think?
Well, there is no doubt that it's time for the United States to make clear that it is going to engage in this effort to stop the difficult situation in Syria and to prevent its further spread. It's already spreading across the region. So the United States doesn't have an option of no action. No-fly zone is an actual military operation, and the President of the United States is going to have to decide whether he is willing to apply American military power to this conflict. But a no-fly zone is clearly an option.
Is it worth the possibility of the loss of American life in that operation?
Well, you have a situation now in which Syria is becoming the linchpin of a possibly exploding Middle East. When you have Iranian fighters in Syria, when you have Hezbollah in Syria, when you have the Syrians shelling the Bekaa Valley in Lebanon, when you have the Israelis taking out Syrian installations because they fear for Israeli security, you have a very serious situation on your hands. And the United States really doesn't have an option to sit on the sidelines.
What's at stake?
What is at stake is really the Middle East state system as we know it. And what is at stake is a Middle East in which Iran and its allies are on the march into places like Lebanon, destabilizing Jordan and Iraq, and Gulf states like Saudi Arabia and Bahrain. Now, the United States of America has got to be present in this. No other country has the potential even to change the dynamics on the ground.
One of the things Congress thought was, well, at least they'll have to present these things to a judge and get some judicial review, and Congress will get some reporting of the total number of orders. But when one order covers every single phone record for a massive phone company like Verizon, the reporting that gets to Congress is going to be very hollow.
Deserves their mac and cheese.
Just like them. Kids with so much promise.
Wish this clip was a lot louder, but it's not. It's a lot to suffer through.
Who are doing everything they can to break the cycle and to beat the odds. And they are the reason we are here tonight. We cannot forget that. I don't care what we can. They
get that mac and cheese.
They are the reason we're here. And today we need to be better for them, not for us.
Are handpicked by the Chief Justice, and the government can go to a judge, as they did here in North Florida, who was appointed by Ronald Reagan, who's 73 years old and is known as a draconian kind of hanging judge.
To give them the chances they need for the futures they deserve. So here's the thing, we cannot wait for the next presidential election to get fired up and ready to go. We cannot wait right now, today.
Get that mac and cheese.
We have an obligation to stand up for those kids. And I don't care what you believe in. We don't. Wait. One of the things that I don't do well is this.
What? Talk to people having a free mind?
Get that mac and cheese, everybody.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's hard to understand the concept of censorship when we have so many options for news. There are hundreds of TV stations, newspapers, and radio shows. But the truth is that almost every avenue from which we get our information in the mainstream media is controlled by only 6 corporations that have one specific interest: profit. News censorship is happening every day, but not necessarily from the top down blacking out stories, but also in the form of self-censorship, framing, backpaging, all to protect the interests of those corporate conglomerates. So who are the big 6 corporations that control nearly everything you see, hear, and read? First, there's Comcast, formerly owned by GE, which controls MSNBC, NBC, and Telemundo. And there's Disney, which owns ABC, the History Channel, ESPN. Next, Viacom, the parent company of MTV, Paramount, and BET. And CBS with all its affiliates. And there's News Corp, which owns Fox News, the New York Post, and the Wall Street Journal. And finally, Time Warner, the parent company of CNN, Time, and People magazine, as well as Warner Brothers. So what impact does it have when an agency that's supposed to serve as a watchdog for the powerful becomes a lapdog for the powerful? Break down some of the most egregious cases of censorship and conflict of interest in the corporate media. BTS producer Manuel Rapalo. Hi, what's going on? So, when I think of the top-down censorship, kind of the hand of the corporation blacking out a story, 2 cases come to mind that are the most egregious. The first one was News Corp. Fox News was going to air a story on the bovine growth hormone, BGH, bovine growth hormone, of course, another Monsanto case of censorship where they were invested in Monsanto for advertising, and their boss said no when a team of Fox investigative reporters wanted to cover the story. Monsanto threatened the station, sent them a letter saying there will be dire consequences, this is a direct quote, dire consequences for Fox News if the stories aired, and I wanted to play what happened when they confronted their boss about this.
This is and I'll never forget, he didn't pause a beat and he said, we just paid $3 billion for these television stations. We'll tell you what the news is. The news is what we say it is.
So really, I mean, you know, you look at this case, and it's such an egregious case of censorship, and really he's saying, we'll tell you what the news is. The news is whatever we want it to be. The news is whatever our advertisers want it to be.
It's not just, when it comes to the media, really, it's not just the parent companies. It's also your corporate sponsors. It's also the people that are putting out the ads. I mean,
we've had 10 major wars. We average a major war every 20 years in this country, so we're good at it. That's a good thing. We're not very good at anything else anymore. Huh? Can't build a decent car. Can't make a TV set or a VCR worth of fuck. Got no steel industry left. Can't educate our young people. Can't get health care to our old people. But we can bomb the shit out of your country, all right?
They launch a helicopter equipped with a powerful eye in the sky.
Especially if your country is full of brown people.
A thermal camera.
That's our new job in the world, bombing brown people. Iraq, Panama, Grenada, Libya, you got some brown people in your country. Tell them to watch the fuck out, or we'll goddamn bomb them. But when's the last white people you can remember that we bombed? Can you remember the last white? Can you remember any white people we've ever bombed? The Germans, those are the only ones, and that's only because they were trying to cut in on our action. They wanted to dominate the world. Bullshit, that's our fucking job! And you probably noticed I don't feel about that war the way we were told we were supposed to feel about that war, the way we were ordered and instructed by the United States government to feel about that war. My mind doesn't work that way. I got this real moron thing I do, it's called thinking. And I'm not a very good American because I like to form my own opinions. I don't just roll over when I'm told to. Sad to say, most Americans just roll over on command. Not me. I have certain rules I live by. My first rule, I don't believe anything the government tells me. Nothing. Zero. Nope. And I don't take very seriously the media or the press in this country, who in the case of the Persian Gulf War were nothing more than unpaid employees of the Department of Defense, and who most of the time functions kind of an unofficial public relations agency for the United States government. So I don't listen to them. I don't really believe in my country. And I got to tell you, folks, I don't get all choked up on the American flag. I consider them to be symbols, and I leave symbols to the symbol-minded.
I'm talking about the fact
picking up a signal, sir.
A war is rich old men protecting their
Captain, that's
property,
the old Morse
middle
code
class and
policy.
lower class young men off to die.
We're reading it, Lieutenant.
Forget these foolish elections. The owners in this country don't care about the poor and the owners in this country.
What are we going? An emotional.
Is this Karl Marx talking to me? The owners of this country are the voters of this country.
You're wrong about that, my friend.
Aren't the owners of this country the voters in this country who elected George Bush?
Not. Listen, politics. These elections are a charade. It is a charade.
Okay.
It is. They are meant to. I'll tell you. Listen. Just listen for a minute. Learn a little something. The elections and politicians are in place in order to give Americans the illusion that they have freedom of choice. You don't really have choice in this country. All the things that are important reduced in choice. Newspapers in a city, how many? Used to be 3, 4, now it's 1 or 2. They're owned by the same people, and they also own a radio station. Give these people a voting day every year.
Of your sensor readings? Definitely a space vessel of some type. Origin? Unknown. Part of the inertia. No flight into the second for years.
Signing up a signal, sir. Okay. Get that mac and cheese. Everybody deserves their mac and cheese.
Science. We're reading it, Lieutenant. I thought you said it couldn't possibly.
Attorney General, the highest-ranking law enforcement officer in this country is a crook.
An emotional person.
Just be sure you're right.
That's a magic number. Three. It's the magic number. Somewhere in this
our hangout sessions. That's what we're going to do up in Mount Vernon. The cameras are solar powered and motion activated. The flash is powerful enough to photograph a suspect up to 100 feet away, even in darkness. Each unit costs $6,000.
Get that mac and cheese. Everybody deserves their mac and cheese.
Pork chops and applesauce, swing connection. Disrespect and watch your body kick.
It's the only way you can really get at them, short of invading that country, which we did and discovered that isn't so hot. So I would say they are a blessing. But they bring all sorts of ethical...
Journalists, on the other hand, shouldn't have what you call the glass jaw when it comes to some of these investigations, citing the First Amendment as threats to the First Amendment.
Well, the First Amendment is a critically important part of the Constitution. It is not unconditional. Any number of us over the years have been in dialogue and in conversations with senior government officials about when something can be disclosed and under what circumstances. And it's kind of case by case. It's not unconditional.
Of course, the reason you and I have spent so much time on television
we want to take you into a kind of secret society, a hidden discovered by some very successful Americans. We discovered sales of a little pill are not just booming. We have traced a 74% increase in these sales in 4 years. So what is it? Does it work? And what is the risk? Here's ABC's Dan Harris.
They are all around us, a secret society of the successful. The lobbyist who wakes up at 5 for 2 full workouts.
Get that mac and cheese.
Work.
It's amazing. I just don't get it why more people don't know about it.
The computer programmer who can now write code for 12 hours at a time.
It helps you focus up for exceptionally long periods of time.
And the brain researcher finding connections nobody else is seeing.
It's just a clear day. The fog isn't there.
Science! And they all say they owe it to this drug, Provigil. It's only approved for narcolepsy, sleep apnea, or for people who work irregular hours. But many people are now taking it for an off-label use to boost energy and focus. The drug, which excites the mind so much it's been nicknamed Viagra for the brain, is quietly being used by military pilots, pro athletes, and pro poker players.
Here comes the music.
On the internet, there are hundreds of sites evangelizing for Provigil, explaining how to get your doctor to prescribe it to you, or how to get it without a prescription. In fact, there is literally one site called BuyProvigilWithoutPrescription.com.
Science!
Many Provigil users are secret, but not Dave Asprey, a successful executive who often wakes up at 4:45, pops a pill, makes breakfast for the kids.
There you go.
And also flies all over the world as VP of a billion-dollar internet security firm.
This can be the difference between I'm just making it through the day to I had like the best day of my life.
Dave says he once flew 20 hours to Australia with almost no sleep, got off the plane, took a Provigil, and delivered a series of speeches that were so good they made the local papers. As a kind of experiment, we asked Dave to stop taking the drug for 3 days and undergo cognitive tests to measure his concentration and reaction time. During this whole 72-hour period, he said he just felt off.
I've noticed that my
Shut up already! This is science.
Very slightly altered.
After 3 days, I watched as he popped a Provigil.
All right, so I guess let's do it. Let's see.
This is kind of advertising.
It took only 17 minutes for him to snap back. The world suddenly seemed brighter, he said.
Science!
Dave compared it to the scene in The Wizard of Oz where it goes from black and white to color. And remember those cognitive tests? Even we could see it on the screen, a pronounced improvement over the day before.
Numbers of citizens, and because of the crisis which is even now developing, this radio station will remain on the air day and night. This station and hundreds of other radio and TV stations throughout this part of the country are pooling their resources. For example, if seniors stay but they can't afford its higher price, they can switch to something cheaper, like cat food. And the cost of living calculation would change to a cheaper item, cat food. So the less you pay for food, the less benefit you get.
Thoughts and opinions are solely that of the host, guests, and sources, and is only to keep free thought alive.
That's a magic number.
Have any power. If you are too afraid of the consequences of standing up and defending this Constitution against whatever comes, but you're defending the Constitution. We've got a man that's sitting in the White House now who is constitutionally ineligible, and every damn body in America knows it. Everybody knows it. But yeah, conspirators, spirit.
For example, seniors they can't afford entire programs. And the cost of living calculation would change with a cheaper item. So the less you pay for food, the less benefits you get.